Hey, welcome to another edition of the Roark Mix. And this week we have Tyler Quarles on the show. And I've known Tyler for a couple of decades. I saw him DJ at a little function that I had and met him there. And he is Mr. Positive, sunshine, he brings a great vibe to every room. And at the time he wasn't DJing, he's just doing that as a side gig and as for fun. But he has been in the creative industry for a long time, creative director of many companies. And when you drive around Vancouver, you see Tyler's work in a lot of places, restaurant signs. And the Herschel identity was created by Tyler, and it goes on and on. And lately, for the last 4 or 5 years, I think, he started a rather upscale rainwear company, Baro Dry, and you can find these beautiful rain jackets in a lot of stores. So he's an interesting character, but all throughout he has had music going through his life, and we'll get into the early days of the family owning the snowboard and skate shop in Vancouver, and just the journey that Tyler's had. He's a great character, and lots of fun to talk to Tyler. So there you go. Welcome, and here we go with Tyler Quarles. I want to dive in, and you know, I think of your growing up as being very interesting and fascinating, that you got to grow up in a board shop with your dad owning Pacific Border, and then you loving snowboarding, you loving surfing. I'm not sure how much skateboarding you did, but I know that you were a board sport kid, and growing up in that shop and growing up in a board shop, working in a shop, music is a huge part of that scene. So
it's everything. It's everything. Yeah.
You know, was it just a gong show in there in terms of like different mix every day? Was there a different person in charge, or there just seemed to be like one person who kind of had it, and you're like, run with it for us?
That's a good question. I think I think the Coles notes on like the music in the shop was, my recollection was there was an upstairs like loft area, and there was like one receiver. And in the early days, it was just tapes, or like, you know, mixed tapes of whatever, you know, when at that time, the windsurfing shop, like whatever staff would bring in, could be just anything, you know? And then I think Dad was really impressed with like his 6-disc changer. That was amazing to have 6 CDs that you could just have, you know. And then I think later on, then he started getting into more like the satellite radio, and that was a bit more like, okay, channel 56 is going to be where I get my like punk rock or whatever it was, you know.
Yeah.
But don't forget too, you've also got now like 8 different TVs playing maybe different snowboard or windsurf movies. Sometimes all different music too, you know? So yeah, you're right. It just became like this wall of sound of culture and fun, you know?
Oh, right. Now, and was there kind of was there some people who worked in that shop on a relatively often basis who you actually got a lot of musical cues from?
100%. I think like the biggest one to call out would be Chris Jagger. He I think he's still with Long McQuaid and has some great bands as well himself. But he was actually my first guitar teacher, and Chris is like the master at selling snowboards. And I guess this was at a time when like Dad would have like seasonal staff, so he'd be like in there in the winter, and then would get like strategically laid off in the summer, like all that kind of stuff, right? And I remember one summer it was like, hey Chris, like I can if you can teach Tyler guitar, because he's an epic guitar player and fully classically trained, I could throw some hours your way or whatever it was, you know? So he was my first guitar teacher. And I remember like going to his house all the time. He would show up like in his old like VW van to my, like it was like, I would go to his house, he'd come to my house, whatever it was. I think about it now, he must've been like 20 or like 21 or whatever it was. And I must've been like 9, but yeah. So Chris was like an amazing first musician to learn from, but everyone was there. Everyone was some form of DJ, you know, like I think some of the names of like Tanya or Ali or like Jason Hilton and like that kind of whole crew, there was a lot happening in like when I kind of came to light of music, like when I kind of became aware of what the staff were playing, right?
Yeah.
You got to keep in mind, like it's a snowboard skateboard shop. Like everyone, pretty much from like 1988 till now, it's still 20 somethings that are there. So it's been youth culture since day one. So what's so cool is like just how many different things were kind of landing in the early 90s when I was kind of paying attention to it. Like grunge was happening, lots of guitar bass rock. The rave scene had kind of hit Vancouver too, so there's a lot of electronic stuff happening too, hip hop and like DJ culture. So a lot of cool stuff happening. It was rad.
And do you remember actually hearing a sound that actually got right to you, and soon as you're like, oh, this is where I want to go? Or were you just a sponge and just took it all in and didn't really have a preference, or just that day it's like, this is what I'm into, or did you want to specialize in a weird way?
That's a good question. I think I always really resonated with the kind of like the Afrobeat kind of funky jazz that would have been in like a lot of the early like Totally Bored snowboard movies. So like a lot of those like Tom Burt and like Victoria Julius, like a lot of the big mountain scenes kind of just made perfect sense for like funky jazz. So that was like a big one for sure. But I never knew what it was. Like, there's no Cole's there's no back of the book what would tell you I'm sure there was. I'm sure you could look in the but there was no Google to figure out now what the such and such artist was. Let's go find it, right?
Yeah.
But do you mean like, was there like a particular moment where I remember, because I can think of a moment like where like music was something where I was like, oh, this is a sound where this is insane. I need to hear this.
Bring it. Yeah, I would love to know that moment where you're like, okay, this is it. This is mine.
So my mom, dad, and sister we were at this time, we were the only family out west. Everyone else was still living in Montreal. I was born in Montreal, and so the whole family moved west to start the snowboard shop. And so we had the luxury of being able to go to Montreal for a couple of weeks every summer, and that was like the best thing to sort of have this like east-west kind of thing. I distinctly remember like the old Air Canada headphones with the two prongs that would like plug into the seat, and you wouldn't know like, is it my prong? Is it your prong? I don't know, whatever. I distinctly remember it must have been like 91 or 92. And I remember flying over the clouds and hearing New Order's Blue Monday. And I didn't know what it was. And the spooky kind of like on repeat loop, shivers. And like I'm looking over the clouds, like the sun was probably setting. It's like that moment of that sound, and it felt like I had discovered it. Like it was like on like the 3 channels at Air Canada. I didn't discover New Order, but that sound was like, whatever this is, and then like that was it. That was like, whatever this is, I'm gonna find it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Hey, I know
I must have been like 6. I must have been like 6 years old. 6 years, like it was
6?
crazy. Totally, yeah. I would have been 6 in like 91.
You're a cool 6-year-old.
I looked at old videos. I was not. But like there was something to that sound. I don't know. I didn't know what it was. I just hearing that, and like that syncopated like bass and drum line, like it was so cool and like kind of spooky. Like it kind of scared me a little bit,
Yeah.
Like I had this conversation with someone where like David Bowie's is it Fame? Or is it is it Fame? What's the name of the song? There's
Fame.
like there's like that like the whole breakdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have talked to friends who were like, oh yeah, like my parents used to have like to fast forward through that part because like I would be scared. So like music can kind of be spooky too, huge pop hit, but
that's
I
wild.
think Bowie would be happy that you were terrified by that. That's awesome.
Too good. There's so many Bowie references in what I have to say. Totally.
Hey, was there much music in your house? And I know your mom's an artist, and your grandmother's an artist, and that side of the family had a real artist bent to them. And your mom kind of preceded you in the graphic design world too. And
totally.
I wonder, and Chris, you've not met the family obviously, but his mom is just like the sweetest woman on earth. So I'm really I'm curious if she had music going on, if she's musically inclined, because I know she's artistically inclined. I'm kind of curious what happened in the house for music for you.
You know, the house, it was interesting. Like, quality of sound was a big deal for my house growing up. Like, we lived in a small townhome, but it was really cool because my grandfather used to work with Bell Canada, and he knew how to like run wires through a wall, right? So like he would come over and like drill a hole literally through a floor in order to run speaker wire elsewhere. So we had sound through, we had like Sonos pre-Sonos. It was spectacular, but it was all hardwired, right?
Yeah.
And like very DIY, not to code. But I say that though, but like music in the house, I feel was kind of more of like a weekend thing, or it was like a doing dishes, or like it was something to sort of, you know, drown out to, or clean the house, or fix the car, or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny because my mom's got the classics. She's got like, you know, she's does the Stevie Wonders and the Simon and Garfunkel and like all that kind of like wonderful classics, right? But you know, like if there was like a song or something that I thought of with like my mom necessarily, it would be hands down Celine Dion's The Power of Love. Like that insanely amazing power ballad, like just gives me goosebumps, right?
And would your mom sing along?
Well, maybe a little bit. But what was funny though is I remember like recently I talked to her and I was like, yeah, you used to listen to that song like quite often. Like it was, and when it would get turned up too. Like it wasn't, music wasn't loud in the house usually. And her joke was, oh, I didn't know you were there. So, you know, that's just like the family joke of like mom doesn't always listen to music, and it's not just on in the house, but when she's listening, she's really listening, and it's awesome.
That's awesome. Hey, we want to ask you some concert stuff, and Chris has went to more shows than anyone I've ever known. So I'm gonna flip to him to ask you a bunch of concert questions for sure.
Of course.
Well, I mean, and just I'm going to rewind just for a second because I want to relate because I'm interested in a couple just pre-gig questioning.
Yes.
So Centrist Ontario, here in Toronto, you were born in Montreal, but obviously grew up in the West Coast, where there is actually a legit skate, surf and snowboard and ski, of course, culture. Here it's always very abbreviated, but my 1978 savings, every cent I had, went to get my original Tony Alva board.
No way.
Still have it.
No way.
Gullwing trucks, OJ wheels, and cool. Literally every penny I had. And I'm glad I'm actually glad that I never got good, because I never destroyed the board. So
where would you have got it from?
There was a skate shop on Yonge Street called Hopkins Cycle and Sports. Awesome. And it's to where I got a bunch of stuff, and they're just 2 doors down from my mom's office, and that's where I got the board. And my kid, who's now 23, been skating a long time, big boarder, has been eyeing this thing, but he's not allowed to touch it because he can't. Because this is and in Toronto, there's no skate parks. You couldn't skate anywhere without getting hassled. I mean, it was just crummy schoolyards and no ramps. So being the son of a cabinet maker, of course, we had unfettered access to plywood and tools. So we had to make everything, cool. Which was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And my partner in crime, John McCabe, who was a great boarder, certainly exceeded me quickly. We moved quickly from the boarding culture to the music culture, and we always felt that they were connected, even as far back as 78, 79. And boarders tended to relate to rebel music, punk music. They certainly weren't mainstream. There was no puka beads or feathered hair in our skate culture, because we were unique, we were disliked, and it was a great way to become an individual through skating.
Totally.
Skateboarding was awesome. So we always had that connection, and we always thought that we were special, and we leveraged our skate culture with our music culture, and that separated us from the guys who are actually good looking with the puka beads who got dates. This was sort of our exclusive enclave. And I think that that's what informed how we move forward with music. And when skating was no longer viable, I think it just naturally transformed into the music scene. And the music that we liked when we were skating was the music that we would actually end up going to see the gigs in Toronto. And that would have been as early as 78, I guess, for me. And then moving forward. So the music scene graduated in Toronto and moved along very nicely with no reference to a skate culture, because there wasn't one. But I need to know, growing up in Vancouver and heading across the Great Divide at the age of 6 and growing up, where was your and I'll probably start with high school, because that's usually a more informed time for music. Where did you fit in on the music scene, and what type of music were you gravitating to as a teenager? And then further to there, when further on from that, what type of gigs would you go to in Vancouver as a part of that natural evolution of personal taste? God, I didn't shut up for about 10 minutes.
That was great. That's perfect. There's a lot of awesome stuff I want to unpack there, and I want to go back to the start there about 78. And I think that I obviously wasn't born in 78, so I don't have the clout to be able to talk to this, but I do understand and respect what was happening in Vancouver between then and I'll say mid 80s or whatnot. I think about everyone from like Pointed Sticks to DOA to like that whole kind of punk and hardcore scene that Vancouver had, and really kind of start. Have you guys watched what's the new band, the new documentary Into the Van with Dave Grohl? They talk about the original. Yeah. They talk about the original van tours, and it's like Joey Shithead from DOA going down and doing the
my friend Joey Keithley.
Yeah, amazing.
He's my buddy.
I want to move to Burnaby so I can vote for him.
Do it.
And then going. Anyways, let's just say that that particular documentary or that film gives a lot of good reference to Vancouver, and kind of always landing, and how that was kind of the first kind of pioneers of that sort of get in the van and go do the tour, and where do you stop at the houses and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think it's any coincidence that those same houses who were inclusive of music were also inclusive of the individuals that were gravitating towards skateboarding and later snowboarding, and that sort of attitude, sort of like come on in, but you have to be real, that was really felt, at least from my early sort of days growing up. My first skate park that I went to go ever skateboard in, definitely not with a real skateboard. It was like one of these I think it was like a Toys R Us special, to be totally honest, was Sealand Skate Park. And Sealand Hall was basically like the mecca for certainly all ages punk shows, and then later like ska and like kind of shoegaze and that kind of stuff. But so to me it was like a geographic obvious thing where it was like, of course the skate park is where that's where we go skateboard, that's the best thing ever. And then literally 30 steps away was Sealand Hall, where all the shows are. To me that was like, of course, it just makes perfect sense, I think like now sort of going into sort of what was I into, where did I fit in? I think first and foremost, I really liked, I know this is a very blanket statement, but I really liked guitar music. I first and foremost really liked that sort of DIY feel. So the bands that I tended to gravitate towards, of course, I'm being influenced by, whatever are in the tapes of Pacific Border or whatever it is. But at this time, I'm guessing, like I remember hearing like Dinosaur Jr. and that kind of stuff for the first time at the shop, and just being like, oh, I love this crazy guitar sound, or Sonic Youth or something of that sort. So that was, but I didn't know what it was though. I didn't know like who it was. I had no idea that it was like, I had no idea that like Nirvana was just like 3 hours drive away. I had no idea. Like, it was just like, here's this thing that's like someone made a CD. There you go. This would have been, I think, my kind of musical sort of where I tended to fit in from that guitar culture kind of started in like 94 for me, sort of thing. So that's like end of elementary school, and I'm at the time was super into like Smashing Pumpkins. Like that to me was like that early Smashing Pumpkin stuff was really, really great. Also listening to everything from like Nirvana to, you know, a little bit of Pearl Jam. That was kind of more like Dad's thing, but that kind of music. And then as it got into high school, it just became like an all over mashup of really everything from like, again, stuff I was hearing in the music videos. So like it was hip hop, it was this and that. Not much hip hop. It was mostly just sort of like little bits here and there, right? But yeah, a lot of like Spring and Green Day and NoFX and Pennywise and Bad Religion and like that kind of sort of stuff that seemed to pair really well with the skateboarding. I was never a good skateboarder by any stretch of the imagination, but sure did love it. And just like that attitude and that feel to it, as much as a good old suburban kid can say they can, right? Like, yeah. Meanwhile, it's like most kids who are into skateboarding and punk rock are like, you know, rebelling against their parents. And here I am like, yeah, Dad, can you pass me that new mixtape? This is great. Like, it was such a weird, like Willy Wonka, like it's like your dad is Willy Wonka, like, and it was crazy anyways. But yeah, did that kind of, was
Absolutely.
there, am I missing anything?
No. You I don't know if you've ever come across them, but there's a band out of Vancouver called Slow. And Slow,
yeah, totally.
Okay, so Slow, absolutely one of my all-time favorites.
Cool.
Very, very short-lived. Caught them here in Toronto at the very end of their careers, but they were most famous for bringing to a screeching halt the Expo '86 Music Festival.
Yes.
Because apparently organizers didn't really like anyone going dick nude at a youth music festival. But
I think there was there was a poster involved as well too. There was
there was
yeah.
But if you come across the album Against the Glass, A, it's extremely hard to find, but B,
cool.
If guys like Dave Grohl and Cobain, all these guys cited Slow as the tipping point for them. A Vancouver band that lasted for an incredibly short period of time, was the most important band to come out of your era in Canadian music, and nobody's heard of them or nobody knows, unless you're a bit of a geek like me. But I actually had the great pleasure of seeing them in Toronto, and the band broke up. The band broke up between Toronto and Montreal, and on the way to a show, and that was the end. So
you're kidding.
So I see exactly what you mean about Vancouver being a launching pad for you. And I think it was so fantastic about where you were is that you had access to so much going on, but a really vital scene that whereas, you know, we were kind of taking the subway and hoping that the rockers wouldn't kick the shit out of us on the subway. But it just seemed to, in my head, Vancouver just seems to be so much more of an alive scene, and I've been out there many times, but not in the recent past, and just the gig scene just seemed, you know, where you could catch 4 or 5 bands in a night, and that would have been in the late 80s, early 90s, I guess, when I was out there trying to ply my trade as well, musically, and failing miserably at it as well, and having a pretty good flame out myself. But that's the thing I think I appreciated most about Vancouver, and one my greatest regret isn't sticking it out a little bit longer to get a little bit of the taste that you had there. I think that's very cool.
Well, I appreciate that. That actually feels a little bit counter to what usually is the case, where if you have I'm actually in more admiration of I'm always in admiration of a previous generation of experience, because things were different, and I think that we as like, you know, Vancouverites look a lot to Vancouver from an entertainment and hospitality opportunity. Think of what's possible with regards to everything from liquor laws to noise issues to all that kind of stuff. It's really, really challenging to have a place to actually have live music here. Most places get shut down. And the ones that are still around, if you pull back a few of those, you know, walls of whatever, you know, curtain they put up, it's still black, which goes back to 1978 when everything was painted black on the inside because it was a punk rock bar. There was nothing but punk rock, you know. Yeah. So that's cool to hear. Quick note about Thomas, lead singer of Slow. So I first know of Slow not through music, but through Thomas, because I worked on a really fun project with Thomas and my original creative director at Ion Magazine, Danny Fazio, and did the branding for the Waldorf Hotel, which he was a part of. So
Fantastic.
so I still have you can still drive and still see my logo back in the day of the Waldorf.
Very cool.
But that was how I met them, and the stories I've heard from that whole crew of just that time, whatever it is. But to your point, yes, the records are hard to find, and I do need to spend. I need to find one and spend more time enjoying it.
They did reunite. I've been eyeing sideways to my record collection. I'm gonna pull against the glass out for you at some point during the night. But
please do. I heard they played at like the Rickshaw recently or something, like maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they had a reunion show. It's actually on YouTube. And,
no way. Okay, I'll find it.
Check it out. Check it out. And some of their videos are from the 80s are still up, and it's a beauty. I come across copies. Toronto, for some reason, has access to. I found a mint copy of Against the Glass at a record show, and sort of mortgaged it all to get that one. But I've come across a couple other great copies too. So if I come across another good copy, I promise you I'll get a hold of Brad and make sure you get it.
That's amazing.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
Transfer Venmo it over to you. Whatever.
Oh, no, hey.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Cool.
Brad, I've hung you out to dry. I've been bugging Tyler for hours here.
This is amazing because I knew some shows would go like this where Chris is the real deal. Chris is the real deal. Once he finds out someone who's the real deal, I'm like, here we go.
Oh man, I have a lot to learn, and it comes from a place of admiration and just trying to be a sponge and just pretending whenever my closest to feeling a part of that would be I've got the record here too. I can point it up, but we rented a rehearsal space from Gord from Pointed Sticks, the organ player. And every time you'd go into like the bathroom or like where you'd like store your gear and beside, it was just like the actual Xeroxes of all the shows, like original, like torn stuff, old set lists from all that time. So I think like, I just remember like, you know, on like my first, you know, whatever first phone could take photos, like a Motorola Razr or whatever, like just snapping like as many as I could. And some really, really cool stuff on there, like Iggy Pop on the bill and, you know, like just weird stuff like that, you know.
That's cool.
Hey, you mentioned a while ago of learning guitar from the guy in the shop.
Yeah.
But in your band, did you not play in the band Sunshine and who has never officially broken up, I believe, just on the
exactly.
On a
hiatus.
Did you not play stand-up bass?
Exactly. Ooh. So I'm a bass player through and through, stand-up, electric, all that kind of stuff for sure. Here's the story. It's apparently this was like a Paul McCartney thing too, but I'm not relating myself. I'm just trying to relate the experience. Oh, nice. Yeah, there it is. That's amazing. My buddy Trevor has the Slow shirt. It might be a bootleg, but it's so good. That's so good.
There's Tom and Selmy right there.
Amazing.
Oh, there he is. There. So anyway.
So I had.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So actually going back to that elementary school time of like, you know, being super into like Pumpkins and Nirvana and all that kind of stuff. I had a group of buddies and we like I said, we liked guitar rock. We all played guitar. I had a guitar. I still have it. My first electric guitar that I got from like maybe it was a Christmas present or something. That I know the story was my dad traded snowboard boots for someone for it, and it's a super old Squire. I don't think it's worth anything. It's like
No,
it's the heavy.
no.
It's the heaviest on the planet. But it just means a ton to me, and I still have it. Anyways, make a long story short, I remember we were at a Battle of the Bands like week-long festival where like it was super cool. I could talk for hours about Tyler Pearson and the Deep Cove music scene. What he did to get kids together was pretty exceptional. And in one of these camps, it was like a drummer and 3 guitar players, and there was like a Fender jazz bass sitting over there in the corner, and it was like, well, someone's got to play the bass. And I had seen a photo of the bass player from Pennywise wearing at Slam City Jam in concrete powder. I didn't go to that Slam City Jam, but I just saw the photo, and it was like kind of like the back headstock, and he was wearing like a really cool red plaid shirt, and he just looked so badass. And I was like, I'll play the bass. I got that. I was like the smallest one there. I was probably like 4'11", and like I'm playing this like jazz bass is massive, right? I'll send it to you somewhere.
Why do I get the feeling
that was really where it came?
Why do I get the feeling you could pull it off and I'd end up looking like Danny Partridge?
I'm pretty sure my hair was about as red as his.
You'd be fine. That's very cool. That's to associate a look or with something you'd like to aspire to musically has probably been the experience of thousands and thousands of
totally
kids.
100%. I will actually remember the moment though. The moment that I realized that actually bass was going to be super feasible was with Chris, my old guitar teacher. He used to live with someone else, Blair, who worked at Pacific Border, great drummer, and we went to go jam. It was like after our lesson, let's go jam. Mom's gonna pick you up in 5 minutes. Let's go play Smells Like Teen Spirit. You just learned it. Great. Here, Ty, you play the bass and I'll play you play the bass and I'll play the guitar, whatever it was. And I was like looking at him going, oh, wait a minute. He's playing, it's the same instrument. It's the same tuning. It's just the root notes of the thing. And that was like, okay, great. I can play bass to any song from now. You just need anyways.
While you're on the topic of your band, can I talk to you about the song Arn Pryor?
Yeah, totally.
Arn Pryor being the anchor of the Pembroke Petawawa Triangle.
Totally. Yeah.
And well, what I need to tell you about Arn Pryor is we played a gig at the Shady Lady Disco in Arn Pryor.
No way. No. Shady Lady
Disco. So there was a disco upstairs, and in the bar in the basement of this what appeared to be a burned out double wide with a basement.
Wow.
Was called Butson's, and there was a sports bar in the basement where guys would fight, and there was a disco with a stage upstairs, and it was the only time where an entirely female crowd took to throwing bottles at us.
Whoa! Like a Blues Brothers scene with like
we had no chicken wire. There was no protection from the angry mob that I think was hoping for something a little sexier than what we were dishing out. And
oh my goodness!
As soon as I saw that you had a song called Arn Pryor, it all came flooding back. Back.
I have to be clear that I've never visited Arn Pryor. Arn Pryor is a love story or whatever you want to call it. Love isn't always good, right? But the song Arn Pryor is Trevor Risk, the songwriter and band everything from Sunshine is from Arn Pryor, and so that's sort of his tip to the hat to his hometown, where I think his some of his family still lives and whatnot.
Sure.
But fun fact about his time in Arn Pryor and what he's doing now. Are you familiar with the show on Crave, Letterkenny?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the head writer. He's one of the head writers on Letterkenny, and Letterkenny is started as a Twitter joke that Trevor would contribute to amongst with Jared Kiso and other people.
It's so
about a fake town, Letterkenny. Oh, yeah. And Trevor's contribution comes from being from Arn Pryor, and that's his contribution to Letterkenny.
I have to watch every episode to see if the disco is mentioned now.
It totally might be.
No, you need to investigate. And as God is my witness, the Shady Lady Disco in the basement was Butson's. And you know, it's funny that you say that, not knowing the background to Mr. Risk's involvement here. As soon as I saw the first episode of Letterkenny, I called my buddy Jeff Pint Patterson from Pembroke, and I said, "There's a show about your life. Like, this is mental. This is incredible,
amazing."
And
that's it.
To tie up these loose ends, I think I can die happy now. It's all come around. So you got it.
It always goes in the circle, right?
Yeah. But please ask him. Now I imagine that the Shady Lady and Butson's may have burned to the ground the night that we left, but there was free popcorn, a very salty popcorn. I remember being very thirsty and driving after the show to Chapeau, Quebec, to a bar called Fred's. Now I guarantee he knows about Fred's in Chapeau, Quebec.
Okay.
And we were far better received at Fred's and Chapeau than we were at the Shady Lady.
That's the Quebec thing, though. You know, it's like, hey, what do you got? Let's do this. That sounds good. You know?
And you know, I think I was at the Horseshoe, and I was with Joey Keithley, Joey Shithead DOA,
Amazing.
And I think we were talking about crazy ass fucking gigs, and
so cool.
I wonder if it was him. I may have related that because I was hoping that he would find amusement in playing a bar called the Shady Lady. And there was lots of shady ladies with really good arms that night in attendance. I'll tell you that.
That's priceless. So what I've just heard, my takeaway from that is that we need to make Shady Lady merch.
I think so.
And make it, because we're not going to get sued. And
no, I don't think they could afford even the slightest litigation. So I think you're in good shape. I'm not saying it's going to be a big seller, but I do think that regionally you'd be better off with some Fred's merchandise from Chapeau, Quebec. So
got it. Okay.
Hey, Tyler, when's the last time you played live? When's the last time you or jammed?
Good question. That's a super good question. We played a show, I think like our Sunshine's last official show was at the Biltmore, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and we played with, who was it? I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. It was a great show. It was tons of fun. Yeah. But it was a number of years ago. Last time honestly, man, it's been way too long. It's been way too long. I can't wait to play.
Well, so you feel the itch, and you know, I know that parts of Sunshine are all over the country now, so it's hard to get the band back together. Yeah. Who would, if you went, wow, I just got an invite, just someone went down and I get to play with this band, who would be your dream gig that you could step in and go, wow, I just had a night with these guys?
Man, that's a super good question. And it could be anything, right? Like it could be.
Hells yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I think like the one, so the band that I know I could like crush it because I've played along too many times would be the Stills, which are out of Montreal. They've long since broken up, but man, they had a really great run from like 01 to 09, kind of 010 kind of thing. 10. Stills great, but I think lately I just loved. It'd be really fun to play on stage with a band like Tame Impala. That would be a really cool experience. They've done some really cool like video like live stream shows during the last year and a half, and just super cool stuff. Just amazing musicianship.
Now, Chris, you don't realize this, but the first time I met Tyler, he was a DJ at our very first anniversary of our restaurant called Travala. And I did not know him, and I don't know how it all came to be, but all of a sudden, I'm like, DJ, I never really, and he starts playing. I'm like, wow, he lit up the room. It was so, that was such a fun party, you know, because
it was so fun.
Burning Hand. It was such a crazy community thing, and we did it for so many years until it got too big. And I kind of, when you were talking about really finding an association with New Order, and then all these other things that came afterwards. I'm curious, what is your, when you DJ now, what do you focusing on more? Like, I've listened to your mixes on SoundCloud from the office, like you and your partner put them up there, or the Baro. Is it Baro or Baro?
We say Baro. We say Baro.
Baro. So Baro, those mixes, and I'm trying to figure out which ones are yours. Because
in all fairness, Mike has been way better at actually setting out, recording, and releasing than I. I'm like volume 3 and maybe another one. Anyway, sorry, I'm interrupting though. Sorry.
No. But the whole idea, I guess the question is, if I ever get to it, is actually like, what are your go-tos? Like what kind of gets it going when you start DJing? Where do you kind of start off, and then where do you get to? Like, is there a progression that you like to get into? That, okay, these are my warm-ups, this is where I'm going, and then I know it's going to click.
That's a good question. There was a period of time where I had a number of what would you call them, Brett? Would you call like a room like Granville Room, or like would you call it like a supper club? Like, people are having dinner at like late, but it's like it does turn into, a dance floor later. Like, what would you call a room like that now?
Yeah, it's almost like they almost call it like the cocktail area of a dining room. You know what I mean? It's like kind of like where you have, kind of people hang out, and then they might have dinner elsewhere, but nonetheless, it's kind of this combo thing. But yeah, let's call it a dinner club. Yeah.
Or like Section 3 down in Yaletown. Like, so it's like we're which would great music down there as well too. Where I'm getting at is some of my favorite nights were not necessarily like, quote unquote, like headline kind of like prime time DJ dance nights. I really like those like 4 to 5 hour, sets where you're just playing a whole bunch of songs, and you're not overly stressed about, matching beats and this and that. It's like sometimes you're playing in a song and it's an entirety, and in those kind of moments, I think I would tend to kind of try to be there like half an hour early, figure out like what are they playing over the house speakers, like kind of try to start with some of that and kind of go from there. Always ending up in some form of sort of, we'd call it like indie disco, or like, funky house or something. I always liked dance music that had real instruments as much as possible. That was always my favorite thing, as a very umbrella blanket statement. So I'd always start out things that way, but depending on the night, depending on, I don't really have too many go-tos. No, I totally have go-tos. What am I saying? I totally have go-tos. If it's like going pretty good, but I needed to go from like level 7 to like 12 really quickly, depending on the crowd, but 9 times out of 10, Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody will just light it up. It's super fun. It can be irreverent. It can kind of feel a little ironic to some, but it's like it hits a lot of generational notes there. That one's awesome. So yeah, I'd probably say that is like a go-to to like get the dance floor to where it's going to go. But on those like 4 to 5 hour kind of sets, or anytime I've ever been the last one on, and like the house is saying like, you're done, like we need to shut it off, without fail, every single time I play 4 Seasons with Oh What a Night. Every time. Yeah. That's really? Always my when we're done. Okay, cool. Oh, what a night. It's just like, because I play on Granville Street, and like, I want them to leave out onto that pedestrian mall and not get in a fight. I want them to hug someone, and there's no song better than that than Oh, What a Night,
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, so that or Wings, Let Me Roll It. So good.
Oh, there you go.
Right on.
Let Me Roll, it's a slow burner.
It's a slow burn. Yeah, it's a slow burn. Yeah. It's like, that's like when like everyone's at the bar and they got arms around each other and let me roll it to yeah. Anyways.
And Oh What a Night is the it's the Jersey Boys guy.
Richie Valens? No, what's his name?
No, sorry. It'll come to me right after we switch off. But that's but cool. That's I have one. I have a question for you.
Sure, of course.
I have so many questions for you. You seem like you have a busy life. You're a busy dude. Okay, so you actually get some downtime. It probably doesn't happen, but I need to know what song you're putting on the headphones to dive into some deep listening. What's the one song that you've got time on your hands, your phone isn't within reach, you've got headphones on, or you're cranking it
Sure.
on the speakers, but what's the one track, one album, or one artist that you like to go deep in, where you can just shut out the world, shut out your the business stuff and everything else you have going on, and just dive in?
Oh man, there's so many good ones. There's two that comes to mind, but for the sake of the question, I should answer one, and I'm going to say Herbie Hancock's Headhunters would be one, because that album has so many different things on it, and you can listen to it front to back, and it's like each song is totally different. Like Chameleon is totally different than Watermelon Man, which is so that one's really, really good. And you can go as like jazz nerd as you want, or you can be like just face value, like this is a pop hit, this is great, so yeah, that one's always. The other one I was going to say, also on the sort of jazzy side, would have been for like a song like So What, Miles Davis.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you want to hear every note,
right? Like
no
that
distractions.
Just totally yeah. That's like
and
what's that Seinfeld scene where it's like the guy who can't listen to Desperado without like flinch. It's like that song comes on like a bar. It's like, can't talk right now.
Well, I think that applies almost universally across his music catalog, and I totally agree. And I think another one where you want to hear every note would be Thelonious Monk or something.
Oh, totally.
Just where you need to hear the finger on the key. You just need to hear every little bit and savor it. So that's cool. I wasn't. I want to thank you, because I didn't expect that.
Cheers. Yeah. No, you bet. There's another contemporary young man you have to listen to, Christian Scott. He's a horn player. He's a trumpet player, and he plays an unbelievable version of Tom York's. I think the song's called Eraser. And what's super, super cool about it is someone's put a piece of paper on the piano, and so it's like you hear like it's such a cool song. So
like
that
a snare
really
drum
good.
Type of treatment or something.
Totally, it's like
cool.
A snare drum piano. So that for like a kind of like a if you're interested in Miles and you want to hear more horn, Christian Scott, super heavy young dude. Yeah,
nice. This has been great fun, Tyler. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So Tyler, the whole idea of the show is that we picked your brain, we learned about you, and with the whole idea that we get to make you a mixtape.
Yes.
Okay, and what's it gonna be? What's the genre? What's the vibe? What do you, when you get our mixtape, you're like, oh, this is gonna be good for this time. What do you want?
Cool. Okay, that's rad. I love driving. I love driving at night. That's my jam. Right. That's my thing. I love music because I think I like driving at night because I love music, and it just they go together, Man, super good question. I think that you can hit a really good. Are you looking for a genre? Or are you looking for like a vibe? The vibe should always feel a little angsty, but like very celebratory as well too. And just driving rhythm, just something that gets you to like it's like the school. Remember He-Man's car had like square wheels, and like you always want to go to the next thing. Like I like that, Like,
oh my God, that is maybe the best description. That's like that emotes, like you emoted what you want. I freaking love that. That's perfect. because people will say genres. You gave us a boom, you know, like that is
Cool.
I think we're going to be
Cool.
changing a lot. We're going to be changing gears a lot during this mix. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Oh my God, my friend Tyler. We're going to get you back out in the water again this summer, my friend.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been absolutely loving watching you basically every day. It's the coolest, man. It's so inspiring. It's so rad to see.
Right on. Well, you, I must say you're killing it. And I just like your vibe, my friend. You're such happiness. And gee, I learned a lot tonight. This is amazing. I'm so psyched to get to work now.
Well, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for getting to hang out. I got, we can't be together personally or physically at this moment, but this is pretty darn close, and I'll take it. So thank you.
Right on. All right.
It was great to meet you, Tyler.
Well, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun talking about just letting Chris and Tyler go at it. They share a lot of musical interests and the skate and punk scene, and I just sat back and let those two talk music. Now we get to make the playlist for Tyler, and it's a driving mix, and it's an uneven driving mix, I believe, were the parameters. So here we go. Chris and I talking music and a driving mix for our friend Tyler Quarles. Well, all right. I'm going to start because of the fact that this song, no matter what you have as your first song, this song has to start the playlist. Okay. Feel the Pain by Dinosaur Jr. Mainly because of the fact when you start the song, it starts with a cork coming out of the bottle. And it's not just like a wine cork. It's it sounds like it's a fat cork out of like some moonshine, So it's like we're off to the races.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. No, I thought that was a great pick.
Well, and it's funny. I was at my friend Tim McDermott's place last night, and we were talking, and I was lamenting on the fact that there aren't. I actually wish there was a video channel again. I wish there was I could pop onto Much Music or something like that, and they actually showed videos. I haven't been on a Much Music or any of those things for forever, and
it still exists.
and a day. But I actually wish. It would be like Spotify or any of the music services where you could pick like your 40 bands, and then I could see a smart list of like good videos, because this video, I remember now because I did some reading on it, and I was like, that was a Spike Jones video. It actually took over MTV for a long time because it was the two guys from the band riding around Manhattan in a golf cart, playing golf through Manhattan. And there's one part of it where they're in Central Park and just lay the boots to a bunch of broker boys and then keep playing. It was violent. It reminded me of Office Space, where they go in the field and kick the shit out of the photocopier.
Nice. So
nothing about the song at all. I just love the video, and I just think it's a great way to start. And it's a great song, And, and they're actually coming to Vancouver in January, February at the Commodore for like 4 or 5 days.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
I don't know if you've seen
the
have you caught the multi-talents of Jay Mascis before?
No, I haven't.
You're in for a treat. Dinosaur Jr. is just it's a good night out.
Yeah. So I'm gonna book that, and I'm actually gonna book that's sold out, but gonna book Gloria's Sons too. Anyways, off topic. What's your pick? I'm
gonna roll with I'm gonna as you said, talk about hitting the ground running. I'm my first pick was Possessed to Skate by Suicidal Tendencies.
2 weeks in a row for this band.
Which is, yeah, I know, and it's quite coincidental because the songs that I chose are certainly thematically different. But Possessed to Skate, I mean, Tyler, I'm referencing the skate rat in all of us, and this particular song is just just a beauty. You know, it references obviously the SoCal skateboard scene, but is one of my all-time favorites, you know, of the genre, and it's just a beauty. It represents everything that we need for driving, yet references skate culture in a pretty solid hardcore way. I'm all over that song. It's a goodie. I think he'll love it.
We'll see if you make 3 weeks in a row with next week. That'll be hard to do to fit into Jennifer's list. So
yeah, I know. I think I'm gonna give Suicidal Tendencies a bit of a break on one for a week.
Hey, remember we're talking to Tyler, and I actually had this image in my mind of just like punk playing in the skateboard shop all the time, because I remember watching a documentary that a friend of mine, Derek Murray did. There was like a 4-part piece documentary that I told you about a couple of years ago, and it came out on punk rock.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a piece in there where they were talking about punk rock became a little more mainstream because it was affordable for all these surf videos. So that's why you saw so much punk rock in the surf videos, because it was cheaper.
Video games as well. The early incarnations of video games, the licensing was cheap and cheerful, and really exploded. An outdoor sport excluded by indoor enjoyment. Basically, the soundtrack to all those video games, connected to the Tony Hawk magic. It was all great indie punk. It's great.
Yeah. So I was a bit surprised when he said a lot of the music in the store was actually Afro funk. You know, I didn't actually see that coming, and you know, once again, probably cheap licensing and maybe 0 fees.
And a cool vibe.
Absolutely cool vibe. So
vibe.
That's why I put, and I'd never heard of him before, but The Talking Fish by the BBO Sound Machine. And part of the reason why I like this song so much is that, you know, Tyler played bass a lot. And I remember him talking later on in the interview when we asked him about zoning out and like just on the carpet, headphones on, who's he going to listen to? It's like, oh, Herbie Hancock, you know? I was like, did not see that coming.
No.
So this song has lots of the bass, and it's got lots of horns, and it's just straight up driving Afro funk. So this is to his earlier days.
Nice.
Yeah.
I threw in one that he was certainly far before his time, but I wanted to get to something that we didn't get to in the conversation, was his art school experience.
Yeah.
We didn't get a chance. I think in hour 3 we may have got to that because we had so many balls in the air with Tyler. But
well, because Arm Prior took a good 15 minutes.
My obsession with
Lucky Lady Disco.
Lady Disco.
That was a good tangent.
Yeah, I went with just a great, and again, because we're making a driving mix, I couldn't help but put in the Jams Art School, which is
your favorite band.
Absolutely. The in the pantheon of my music vocabulary, the Jam exists in the top spot by a month.
I will always remember the day 3-4 months ago when we were talking about this project. I was like, pretty little pleasure of mine is you know, Paul Weller is banned after the Jam, and you're like, yeah, I'd hate it. Style counselor. You're like, no. As soon as he's done with the Jam, I was done with him.
You know, and I've come full circle with Paul Weller, but I think that I was in a place that I reserved exclusively for that, and when Paul, you know, took a turn and wanted to do something certainly musically different, it's not that I was unwilling to forgive. I don't think I was ready for his new project. I was still too intent on putting Setting Suns on and just ripping it, as I still do. I just wasn't ready. I wasn't emotionally mature enough. I wasn't in a headspace where I was ready to accept change.
I have a feeling that 90% of these fans would have been the same in the same boat. You know, that was a 90-degree turn for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, the pace and beats per minute of art school appeals to me on all of the superficial levels, in that the song is about 2 minutes long, fits in all of my attention span criteria there, and is pretty noisy too. And I had to put myself in the driver's seat when I was building my list, and that fit it. So I'm good to
You
go.
know, it's funny when I'm crafting the list. You know, I can go a couple directions because there's a lot of skateboard talk and there's a lot of high energy talk. But I was thinking, I think Chris has got this covered. I might want to bring it down because he did ask for an uneven playlist. I'm like, I'm going to bring it down, and I know you're going to bring it.
Well, yeah, and I did. Yeah, I don't think that we should be responsible for a variety of for a flurry of speeding tickets either. So and it didn't change gears much, but there's just slow burners in there. What did you come up with as your next one?
Well, remember I said if you could play with any band, you could jump in and do a little guest piece. One of the bands he referenced was the Stills.
Oh yeah,
yeah, out of Montreal, and I wonder if I don't know what his strong connection is to them, because they disbanded in 2011, but maybe shared birthplace, and I don't know, maybe he did hang out with them at one time or just really likes the music. But it's a funny thing, and you would know this better because I've never played in the band, and I don't have my finger in the pulse to live acts like you do. But it's funny that they start their career in 2004 and labor and labor and labor. 5 years in, they get Best New Artist Juno Award.
Yeah,
I think they get Best Alternative Album, and then 2 years later, they're like, we're done. It's like they're almost scared to, or not scared, but once they reach the peak, they're like, that's it, or it's not. I don't know. It just wasn't maybe what I don't know, the internal dynamics, but it's just a funny thing. It's like hammer and get the success, and it's like, yeah, I guess we're done now.
Well, I think bands that might be given to a little bit of superstition might be very happy to know that they did not get New Band of the Year at the Junos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What is there a long list of burnouts?
The kiss of death. It has been. Yeah, it's the equivalent of the Brady's going on vacation and messing with a tiki. It's not a good plan. And if you
well, now I get it.
if you go through the list of most promising acts, and to be fair, there are many that have gone on to long careers. I'm not talking about success, because I don't really give a rat's ass about how other people determine success, but bands that have actually managed to stay together after that, yeah, I think is the bigger concern for the hex that is part of the Junos. But it's
so
true.
Now I have to look up who won last night.
Well, yeah, I think when the conference champions win in the NHL and nobody touches the trophy,
yeah,
it's virtually the same thing.
Yeah. So they shouldn't show up to the Junos. Or just sit in their seats. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some acts in there that you will immediately recognize and go, oh yeah. That's a shame. Junos.
Well, it's a shame because they never should have been there anyways.
No, they should have been there, but it's a shame that the aftermath, and I can't blame the Junos. My God, it's 50 years of great Canadian acts, but I think there's just something associated with winning that particular award.
Yeah,
that's dicey. There's a lot of expectations beyond the expectations.
Well, things change, absolutely. Like you're obligated to do more press and obligated to do things that were never part of your initial game plan. But it's funny because, you would think if there's 5 people in the band, 2 people embrace that, and the other 3 are like, oh, I kind of signed up for this, but I didn't think it would suck like this,
Oh, absolutely. And it's hard to be a fly on the wall there too. A couple weeks maybe before somebody wins that award, the band's on ice anyway, and they push
Yeah.
through for another year or two to fulfill some obligations. But really, the writing was on the wall. 24 months before. So
Yeah.
it's a tough run, but a great pick and a great band. I wish they were still around.
I have a feeling your next band did not win a Juno.
My next band absolutely did not win a Juno. But I think that they should have, and I think that the leader of the next band should have been a member of parliament, but that's not the case. DOA's Smash the State.
Yeah.
With Joey Keithley and crew, a band that should get a Juno for longevity, for commitment, and for staying true to the original cause. I mean, there's never been a wavering moment for DOA. They have been influencers and leaders to untold numbers of musicians to stick it out, and it's a superb, energetic track. Smash the State says a lot, and its enduring quality, I think, speaks volumes. I think it's a beauty pick. Obviously a West Coast pick.
Yeah.
So I'm playing favorites on the left coast there, and in the later time zone. But I think it may fit a driving genre. And and Tyler did mention Joey and DOA, so I couldn't help but put that in.
And some of the names in that band, they all had hilarious nicknames. And oh my God, there was like Chuck Biscuits was previous, and there was Stubby Pecker, and but there was the core of the lineup. Andrew Graffiti. I don't know. They replaced, but the core of the lineup, they played. It was 1979. They played a show at UBC at the Student Rec Center or something like that. And due to an incident that happened, 2 of the core guys had to leave. They got replaced by Stubby Pecker and someone else. And then your buddy, your hopeful prime minister, said, "Fuck it, I can't play with these guys. You guys come back." Yeah. I need to find out what that incident was.
Yeah. I mean, Joey's sort of an open book, and he's just such a super cat. I'm surprised that that's not on public record.
I know. I will dig deeper, and we'll have a part 2 to the show, I think, and just go through that night in depth.
You must know that incidents involving punk bands and replacement of personnel is virtually a daily occurrence.
I know, but I don't want to know, because the fact that everything goes on in the show, what went on so badly that he's like, yes, okay, you two need a break.
How badly can it go and get off the rails? Well, I will be discussing a show that went off the rails later, because I have a pick that references a terrific Expo 86 experience. So
okay. So we had, not shockingly, we had similar picks, and my pick is from the White Stripes, and you had a one similar to this, but I actually did a cover song. Okay. Yeah. I don't know where the hell I heard this first, but I heard it and it just blew my hair back. And it's by Nostalgia 77, which is like a jazz and more of a horns type of outfit, a little bit of funk. And the woman singing on this, Alice Russell, I think just a freelance artist, she plays them a little bit, but it is almost gospel. Like there's parts of this, and I just picture this, and I played this, after I make the mix, I played in the car endlessly, because I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. This is going to work, especially, since he said play in the car. And there's a part of this, like, where you're just like, oh, it's like, it's just one of those, you're like, oh, wow, that she almost like her voice almost exploded, you know? It was like it's it is a hell of a cover rendition. It's slowed down, less guitar, and the drums don't go as fast, and it just allows for her to just take center stage. So it's one of those, whenever I hear this in one of my mixes, I'm like, oh, that's a goodie. And I got to listen to her more.
Good. I love that. I
Yeah.
can't. That's an absolute beauty. That's going to be, that'll occupy some of my time. Fantastic. I slowed it down a little bit with one of the sadder songs ever written. Not sure if you're too familiar with the LA punk scene, but the band X with fronted by Xena and John Doe. I went with 4th of July. Just to bring it down a little bit. It's a super melodic, beautiful song, sad as hell, but given the BPMs of my other choices, I thought that one might.
Tyler did ask for uneven.
If you know, see, in my head, you're just going through a little bit of a valley section, a foggy valley section, where you might just foot off the gas for a little bit, just as you get through safely. So that's why John Doe will be crooning 4th of July, which is a beauty there. And
you're right. I didn't know this band, so I listened to it. At the start, I hear Guns N' Roses. The start of this song has a little GNR.
It's a very slow progression.
Yeah, and then his voice, I would say, it sounds a little Eddie Vedder-ish.
Oh, he's got a growl. Sure.
Yeah. So
sure.
I heard a lot in this song, so I became quite interested and started listening to more. And they are like a slowed down. I really understand their lyrics. You know what I mean? Like some punk bands, I'm like, I'm not sure what's going on here, but these guys, this is my style for sure. So you turned me on to a new band for me.
This track in particular speaks to the last days of a slow death of a relationship, and it has an amazing tragic beauty to it, and it's an absolute favorite. I've loved this song forever. It always makes the cut with me.
I love it. It's so sad. I've always loved it.
It's so fucking sad. Fuck. He may have to pull off to the side of the road.
Oh, you always need a good cry in the middle of a good road trip.
Yeah.
Hey, remember, he said that, because I asked him about the stand-up bass, how did that come about? And he referenced Pennywise. So I had to put Pennywise in there, Victim of Reality. And that was like, the driving force of getting a Pennywise song in there. And this is a good song, obviously. And what I love stories about bands, and I love possible incarcerations. They're in LA doing the Adam Carolla radio show, obviously years ago, and they barricaded the studio so no one could get in, no one could get out. And while on air, they take over the mics and they are threatening Adam Carolla. He's going to take a dump and he's going to make him eat it. And then there was also talk of grenades and other devices. The police were called, and magically no charges were laid.
Wow.
I know. Anyways. Do you have similar stories from your road trips?
Well, none involving anyone interested in me, that's for sure. Not to the point where where there'd be any fireworks involved, but that's a good tale.
Adam Carolla's always had funny and crazy shows, but even he was like, we need police.
You got hand grenades, defecation, Adam Carolla. You've got
and the guy's 300 pounds.
Yeah, and several fire codes were broken by barricading the doors. That's outrageous.
There we go. Anyways, there you go, Tyler.
Good pick. Good pick. I which one did I throw in there? I went with another favorite. I really like Bad Religion. I think they're that's another band with longevity and a great book. And Stranger Than Fiction just appealed to me for Tyler. It just seemed that he's a guy with some stories, and I thought that thematically and by title, this song qualifies. Bad Religion's just a superb live band. Again, it's a band I've seen many times live, and I'm a huge fan of their live performance, certainly more so than their recorded material. But I think that's the added dimension of a live performance is something that really is something I've always appreciated about them. But this particular track just kicks it. It's a goodie.
Mm-hmm. It is a goodie. And Tyler most certainly has not taken the straight path. He's done what interests him, takes years off life and goes to Australia because he knew he had to mix it up. Like I obviously can appreciate that because my path was not straight, and neither is yours. But he has a measure of success going into that, and he said, "Yeah, I gotta switch it up, man.
Right,
off to Australia, and pretty much just surf for a year and hacked around."
You're exactly right, and in conversation with Tyler, he is a generator of stories, and he's a generator of stories because he takes an active interest in the wild and weird in his life. So that Stranger Than Fiction just it just out of the ether came to me.
Yeah, and either you're a really good fiction writer, or you won't have many good stories. You better do things, or else your stories are going to be pretty one-dimensional, just based on the past, right? So I'm a big believer in that, and that's how I'm not going to get about me, but that's how I hire people too. It's like, what have you been doing? What's your story? And if you don't have a story, then how are you going to entertain people? So
exactly.
He mentioned 6 years old, plane ride, New Order changed his life. Like, that was the one Blue Monday that was like, that's the sound. I don't know what's going on. I got to investigate this. That led to the path. And I don't think you've listened to his SoundCloud mixes. And like, I referenced them because his clothing company, Baro, they put up a number of SoundCloud mixes, which are really good. Harkens back to his DJ days. And but the one he's got a few of the early ones, and he's got this type of sound in some of his mixes. Like I can kind of tell which are Tyler mixes, And so I did Age of Consent, and Age of Consent, obviously it's one of their most popular tunes, but I think it has the most prominent bass line too. So I kind of picked it based on the fact that, Tyler is the bass man, and this is probably their most bass forward song. So that was it, and it just kind of ties everything together. Him discovering music, and then him playing bass, and I think he's still into the sound too. So I think he would dig this for sure.
Oh, no question. I thought that's an absolutely beauty pick, and a great story to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big change, and it's funny how music takes you at a certain point and presents itself at a watershed moment, and a
6 years old though.
Transcontinental move at 6 years old, and to glom onto something like that is pretty cool.
Absolutely. I just couldn't get over it because when we were like, I think both of you and I, when we were hearing it, we were about to go, what, 10 or 11? And he's like 6. I'm like,
yeah,
that wasn't my 6-year-old program.
Yeah, no kidding.
It might have been yours because you had a more musical life than I did, but I don't know.
But I'll tell you, my first musical experience taking a plane from Toronto to Vancouver was not so successful. They had those shitty air-powered headphones where it was sort of an air hose that you listen to it. And the song on rotation, and this was 1974 or 73, was Paper Roses. by Debbie Boone. And this fucking song played every third song all the way. And it was horrific.
It also had an effect on you.
CPR and the 747 was called the Empress of Asia.
CPR, I don't even remember that.
CPR,
Gosh.
orange and black and silver. CPR. That's because I'm older than you.
You are. Were you sitting in the smoking section?
I always stayed in the smoking section. Actually,
that's where the party's at.
I asked for the smoking section. The funny thing about air travel in the 70s was every seat was in the smoking section.
Yeah.
Wherever you sat.
Well, it was like restaurants, man. Like, I mean, this table right here, smoking. Yeah. This table right here, 3 feet apart, you're in the non-smoking section. No. Everyone have a good time.
If you look at the fuselage of a mid-70s 747, there's no magical air handling unit that was filtering out. It was just cycling through, you know.
Oh my God. And yeah, I do remember smoking on planes. So
the only way not to be in a smoking section would be to get some turbulence and have the oxygen mask come down. That could be the only time when you weren't in the smoking section of the plane.
Oh man. Oh God. Those are the days. And actually, I remember a plane where you actually could turn the seats.
Oh, okay. I don't remember.
You could face each other and play cards. So the four of you could play cards.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, those are the days. I think we flew to Cuba that way.
You must have flown on fancy planes. that had seats that turned around.
Maybe the seats weren't affixed properly. We just turned them around.
The first seats on a commercial airline were wicker chairs that weren't bolted to the floor. Now, can you imagine landing a prop plane sitting in a wicker chair not bolted to the floor?
How many legs blew out there?
What about this?
Oh my God, that's great. And was there a seatbelt at all?
There was no restraint. I think it was like a garden party up in the air. But it's when these things come down, they're not always gentle. I mean, we're air transport in its infancy. There wasn't a ton of luxury, and there's no luxury now.
No, that's all gone. Yeah.
It hit stride in the 60s and then went, downhill from there.
Yeah. So what happened if you banked hard right? All these wicker chairs.
You ended up on the lap of your next door neighbor. Now, I think that in the narrow sections of the earliest commercial airlines, I think it was probably no more than, I don't remember the pictures of it being, it was probably 2 or 3 abreast.
Yeah.
They were pretty narrow.
Yeah. So how many times did you luckily meet someone because you banked hard right?
Or ended up on their lap. I'm confusing my podcast about early air travel with the Roark mix.
Well, that's it for songs.
My metaphors.
Hey, I went I think 2 weeks in a row. No, I didn't pick Smashing Pumpkins last week. I spoke of them because of Pavement and their reference to them. Right. But Age of Innocence, he was talking about shoegaze, and these were a shoegaze band if there ever was one. The ethereal sound, and I tell you, that band, they lived through a lot. If you remember, it was the days when the mosh pits were, there were some deaths that happened with mosh pits. That was one of their concerts where someone died. It was in Ireland or somewhere in
really?
That area that someone died in one of their mosh pits, and they were very anti-mosh pit at their concert, but it still happened, and someone died at that one. And love them or hate them, but Billy Corgan did get on the Simpsons. He was on the Hullapalooza tour.
Yes, he was.
So he'll always be okay with me because he did make a Simpsons episode, and I believe it's because of the fact that Courtney Love pulled out at the last second.
Right.
Yeah.
And Courtney Love connection. Melissa Oftemare played bass, went on to play with Hole.
Yeah.
After. So
Yeah.
there you go. A brilliant Canadian musician from Montreal, Melissa, if I remember correctly.
Oh, right. I did remember that because I actually, when I was looking at Hole, I was looking at all the members of the band. Yeah. Canadian girl.
Canadian
Right
girl.
on. She
Rocking
did good.
Great choice.
All right. What you got?
I referenced Tyler's love for the bass as well, and I went with an old gem. I went with Beastie Boys, Sabotage.
Yeah.
You know, just great bass line, great distorted bass. The song goes up and down and all over the place in so many directions, and I just love it because I love it. And I could see a little jamming out high up on the fretboard there. So from a bass player's point of view, with a little bit of distortion, Tyler, I could see him getting into that.
Yeah, I'd say, and the Beastie Boys story, like, I mean, just some high school kids in New York that just, pushing CDs out of their apartment, and friends passing them along and along. It was the internet before it was the internet. It was just like pass on to one person, another person, and they were like, pressing 100 CDs for the first year or so. Then I don't know if it was MTV that made them pop or something, but there was something that they just went from like 1 to like 99 in the span of a month, and then the rest is history, because they really were the real deal.
It speaks to the magic of the regional suburbs, and suburbs not in the true American context, but in the urban context. You had the Ramones, coming out of Borough, of course the Beasties. You had so many great acts that evolved from friendships, from hanging out, hanging around.
Yeah,
because there wasn't Nintendos in Jimmy's basement.
Yeah,
and there may or may not have been a directive to play organized sports. These were kids who were hanging out, obviously had came from parents who encouraged the arts, certainly didn't forbid it, that's for sure. And it came from screwing around, lyrically and thematically. Beasties just had these great comical sense of camaraderie, and sort of unloading on each other, and observations about neighborhood and state, and it was just, of course, that just speaks to a lot of people who didn't get it. A lot of people didn't get Beastie Boys.
Well, the thing is, if you're an outsider and someone who has knowledge and experience and knows the world, upon listening to them in their early days and even throughout, you go, well, this isn't going to work, because it makes no sense, because it's so different. And the reason why it works is because it was so different and no one else was doing this, So either you totally missed the mark, or you just made the game.
Sure. I mean, I think part of their charm was how counterintuitive it immediately seemed.
Yeah.
And then people were turned off by maybe the sophomoric silliness.
Mm-hmm.
But what people missed out on is the musical genius.
Yeah.
Beasties. And how they weren't just, they were far more than rappers and rhymers. Their musical talents on their own were just outstanding. I mean, I've seen the Beasties where they do a whole hour or more of their set, just instrumental jams, and it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So
I'm always amazed that, I grew up in the country per se, where you could play drums in your house because your house was in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Yeah.
How the hell did these guys, living in walk-ups and Manhattan or whatever, but like pretty good chance their house or whatever it was attached to a bunch of neighbors.
Sure.
Like A, for their parents to say, yeah, keep doing what you're doing, as opposed to like, let's make peace with the neighbors, because you just know there's a lot of neighbors who are like, what the fuck is going on?
I think the great thing about New York in the 70s was a lot of people were making a racket. So the racket was part of the normal din
Yeah,
of,
it's the white noise. Yeah,
of life in the boroughs,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And there, you know, there were musicians, there were alleyway musicians and guitar music, sorry, garage musicians. There was people who were creating art and music on street corners. And because that was part of the fabric, it's something that you and I weren't used to.
Mm-hmm.
Something I didn't see a street performer, obviously, in my neighborhood growing up. We had to go downtown to see buskers.
Well, at
These-
least you had that. Like, I mean, I didn't have that until I entered the big town of Toronto. And that was like, who were the freaks, you know? My God, someone protect me.
Yeah. The you know, the beautiful freaks that inform your stories, that tell the tale, and that's how good things happen.
Mm-hmm. Hey, remember I asked either you or I asked Tyler, how do you change the mood in a room? And I think it was like DJing, you know, like what's the song you go to where you're like, okay, I need everyone on the dance floor right now. And
Right.
he referenced Whitney Houston, and I think it was I Want to Dance with Somebody, but one of her tunes. And this is more of a personal thing for me. I chose a band that most people don't know. It's called Freak Power.
I don't know Freak Power. I love it all. I love Freak Power already.
It is a band born out of England, and I discovered them. I lived in Taiwan from 93 to 98, and you know, as a foreigner there, you do gravitate to the North American store, and it was the big record store. God, you know, there's one or two of them. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but you would go to the record store. It's huge, and for some reason, this was on display. It had a great cover, and it had like this peace sign, like a funkier peace sign. And I think I went to the music bar and listened to the CD, and that has been one of my favorite CDs. And maybe it's because it's a time and place. You know, like I needed something that like it just took me away from the craziness of the Far East, because at that time it was my first year there, and then I almost felt like it was my band because no one else had heard of them. And the reason why I picked this song, "Waiting for the Story to End," is that in my fourth and fifth year, I lived with a bunch of American guys. Like we had a big house, and we always had the pre-party at our house. So it would always be like drinking, 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 go for dinner, or drinking, drink, drink, go drinking. Um, um, and you know, we're 2 or 3 hours in, and it's 11 o'clock. We're like, we actually have to go out now. You know, like I mean, the pre-party has went 3 hours past the whole. Like we went to get beer 3 separate times to reload
as the good ones do.
And I would always, and it's hilarious, is everyone look at me and they're like, it's time for the song. And you put the song on, everyone's like, and it's just like, it just has such a distinctive beat, and it gets you out of whatever you're doing. It's like, and we're like, let's go, end of the song, we're out of the house, always. And this is my change the rhythm song to the evening.
Nice.
And then the guy, what's his name? Norman Cook was the organizer, the leader of the band. And I don't know if you know Norman Cook, but he later went by the name Fatboy Slim.
Oh, come on. Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
There you
Yeah.
go. I just see. I learned something new today.
And I think he was House Martins before. Either he was House Martins or another guy in the band was House Martins. So, you know, House Martins became Beautiful South, and then one of those guys formed Freak Power.
Wow, I never heard that. That's cool.
Yeah. So there you go. There's my Freak Power and change the mood of the room song. There you go, Tyler.
I referenced Expo 86 and the youth music festival there, which ground to a halt, and I believe was canceled moving forward when the band Slow, thought it would be an opportune time to go dick nude for the crowd. Because I find at youth music festivals, there isn't enough dick nudity. I think they agreed and they ran with it. So this band, I think this band begs a documentary because they are, without a question, of its kind, of its time, the most influential band in Canadian music. Because the number of hugely successful bands that followed in their steps, they were pre-grunge, but influenced all of those bands. And if you listen to Against the Glass, the pacing of the songs, and had they survived the ending that so many bands find themselves in, whether it be personality conflicts or substance abuse or a big mixing pot of all of the above. These guys punched out one of the most important Canadian records, really. I think that took other bands to important places. And I think that they've never really been truly acknowledged about that, or acknowledged for that. But the song I went with was "Have Not Been the Same," and I don't know if you had previously encountered that song. It's pretty rare. I would guess that you hadn't.
No, I did not. I was aware of them because I think 2 years ago you contacted me to get tickets.
That's right. Yeah.
But it was the all ages show were left, and then you decided you were busy anyways, so you couldn't fly out anyways. But that's the first time I had heard of them, and so I listened to them a bit, but I don't know the song.
Yeah, that was a band I would have hopped on a plane and crossed the divide for any day of the week. I was later sent from a buddy in LA the full video of the show, of the later show, the adult show. Happy to report there was no dick nudity. They were musically pretty damn great and tight. I got to see them in Toronto, and they were on their way after the Toronto show to Montreal, and the band imploded somewhere along the 401 and didn't make it to the Montreal show, from what I understand.
But recently?
No,
this mean along
80 summer of 86, I think.
Okay, so when they got back together, it was okay.
Oh yeah, I think that some wounds had healed, but I mean, when you're talking about a horrible shame, I think that this band really it had a great future, and I think that if they had been together 2 years later and had the support of 2 years of that industry stewing over their style, I think they absolutely would have been a huge band. And to see their live performance here, I caught them at RPM, and it was absolutely as good a show, I think, as I've seen in the 80s. Unbelievable.
RPM, what a place. I remember going there when I lived in Toronto every Thursday night for that dance night, and the sweatiest. It was always just a full-on night. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I didn't go to any of the DJ nights there because I think I had occupied so much time with their live shows. And the summer of 86 or 87, probably 86, they hosted what was called the Great $5 Concert Series. So on the roster that summer, there were so many shows. I mean, I can't remember what summer job I had, but I don't think I went to work that much, because there was literally a great band. I mean, the Ramones played in the $5 series. The Hoodoo Gurus, great band out of Australia, played. 10,000 Maniacs were part of that series. I think Meat Puppets. This summer was a collection of these $5 concerts. It was just unbelievable. And RPM hosted it, and it was a great place to see bands, for starters. noisy and fantastic, and now it's a condo, like everything in Toronto, Brad.
Hey, he mentioned another band. I referenced the Stills before when I said, who would you like to play with? He also said Tame Impala.
Yeah.
So those are the two. So I had to get them on there. The less I know, the
Okay, good one.
yeah. You know, it's funny though. I was going through the catalog. I'm like, oh, what song do I want to pick, and which one fits, which one works. I'm like, this one I really like. It's got a good beat to it, and and then of course I look up the song and the notes from an interview, and the lead singer of the band says, I don't know how this song got in the record because this one is so not us. And of course, it's the one I gravitate towards.
Nice.
You know what? But I think part of it is because of the fact it has a similar beginning to a Bahamas song from Earth Tones, and it's called Show Me Naomi, which I really love the song. And there's part of a rhythm there. When I heard, I'm like, oh, that sounds like Bahamas. So I was playing them back and forth this morning, actually. And I'm like, oh, it kind of does. But I never asked Tyler how he came to, I remember I told you that for Patagonia, they pressed 500 albums of Bahamas Earth Tones, and all the money went to save the whales or some type of ecological thing, which, you know, one of the many things they do that's great for the environment. And I never asked him how that came to be because he designed the album for that. The
Nice. Sure.
Yeah. So that's Tyler's doing. And yeah, so I never got that story out of them, but somehow this song tied into Bahamas just made me think of that. Then I remember, I'm like, I never asked him. So I'm gonna have to email him and ask him about that. And because I sent you that email that after the show, he's like, damn, I forgot to thank my dad. My dad was so important playing the guitar. So there you go, Tyler. We thanked your dad for getting you into music.
You know, when you've had a long road trip and you pull into a driveway, because I've had many long road trips.
Yeah.
Road trips from here to BC a bunch of times, and from Toronto to the East Coast now a bunch of times, whether driving a kid out, retrieving a kid, or just going. And I had a motorcycle trip circumnavigating United States from here to the East Coast, south through Florida, Texas, across California, north and back. And I always think of the end of a road trip. So you pull into the driveway, and you ever get that sense where you've been in the car a long time? And the last song I chose here was when I had a straight shot 16 hours to the East Coast, and I arrived in Pugwash, Nova Scotia at 2 a.m, wheeled into the driveway to the place I was staying, and you're eager to get out of the car, but I had all my playlists set up, and I wheeled in, and just as I was going down this gravel road, Graceless by The National came on. And I remember absolutely, it almost just brought everything down. It, like the wheels touched the runway, and this was sort of a taxiing song. So I remember pulling up and I think I just let the song finish. There was something about the end of, it was the end of a trip, and the song fit the end of a trip just perfectly.
I have this visual image, sorry, but you arrive, your friends are like running out, Chris is here, you're like,
what was I? No. Sadly, there was no welcoming party for this particular trip. But it was just, that was exactly it. It was just, you know, it just had to finish it out.
Yeah.
16 hours straight shot to Pugwash, Nova Scotia, and I just had to sit there for the last 4 minutes.
And then you open the door and you discover your legs do not work.
My legs were, yes, there was no blood in the lower part of my body, so I just had to flail on the road until my extremities sorted
And your
themselves out.
and your perfect playlist is over, and now you're just lonely.
Now, to be fair, I did take a lot of stops to stretch and do my calisthenics,
Mhm.
to do my lunges.
Yeah.
Did a lot of lunges because I'll tell you, if you do sit in a car for too long, you're going to cramp up or clot up or something horrible is going to happen to you.
You're gonna get a claw. Yeah.
You can do that when you're young. You can't do that in your 50s.
I know. When
It's in
did
your
you
late
when did you make the transition from saying stretching to calisthenics?
Calisthenics is always going to be a reference to the Vic Tanny's chain of the Vic Tanny's chain of fitness centers. And the first time I went to Graceland on a,
How did I know there's a freaking story here?
the first time I went to Graceland was for we rented a Winnebago and drove straight 18 hours in a blizzard. The blizzard started in Toronto and didn't give up until south of Cincinnati. And we get to Graceland, and and during the tour, this was 1991, I think, or 90. and the tours, you had sort of a shitty Walkman on and a tape thing. It's very modern now, but we're in the racquetball court that Elvis had built, and the tour guide said, well, Elvis really adhered to the fitness craze of the 70s and had a racquetball court where he'd come and work out. And in the time he was describing, Elvis was so bloated and bewildered. He was morbidly obese. Dr. Nick had him completely out cold on drugs all the time, but with a straight face. Bless him. The tour guide said, oh, Elvis really took a shine to the calisthenics and fitness trends that were happening in the States in 76. He got a velour tracksuit. And
he purchased the athletic wear, and that was the extent of it.
They had an incline sit-up board with the foam caps that your ankles go under on display, and I'm there just dying, imagining this poor drunk drugged whale trying to flail himself into an upright position. Oh, it was just so horribly sad. But that was the touchstone for me to try to use terms like calisthenics on a daily basis.
It obviously worked for Elvis, so I'm going to give it a whirl.
Exactly. How could you go wrong?
Well, I believe, I don't know if you saw my Instagram last week, but I'm not sure what is conversation and what's our blooper reel, but I think we pretty much covered it there.
There you go.
Is that your last song? Is that your last pick?
Oh no, I've got. Oh,
okay.
I do. Oh, you know what I didn't? Oh,
no, good, because I have two. So I went Screaming Trees, and that speaks to their punk, their grunge.
Yeah.
They're from Ellingsburg, which is like I think an hour south of Seattle. So they're right in that hub, and it's a hard driving song. Like it's my list definitely goes up and down and a little bit of goofiness here and there. It's got funk and jazz and some silly stuff, and yours goes up and down. And this one I threw it into the fourth gear for sure, and it just drives hard. And I tell you, if I was in a band and if we shot a video, it would be probably my hometown, and
it would.
And, maybe at the Riley Hotel, as I've mentioned before in previous texts. It's gonna be quite the entertainment. And
it's confirmed our reservations, by the way.
But these guys shot the video in the Ellensburg rodeo, and just in the middle of the dirt. The whole video's there. There's a few cutaways, more artistic stuff of like a burnout house, and like back to the band. So I'm like, these guys, it was a $50 budget, and they still had $35 left over after this.
they stayed thematically true through the entire production.
They did. So there you go. There you go, Tyler.
Hey, I stayed West Coast and not too far away with a band from Portland, Oregon, and it's the Thermals.
Oh yeah. Well, what a song.
I
The
love
song builds.
the Thermals. Is one of my great accidental discoveries. I've always given to just go out and walk around, and not specifically look who's playing in Toronto, but just visit. Who cares? Like, what's a cover charge? 10 or 15 bucks. And I've had so much luck over the last 30 years of just walking into a music venue and checking out the band. And this band, I was so lucky. I walked in 5 minutes before their first song, and I was floored from the second they got on the stage to about their third encore. And it's a shame that they've disbanded, but and I don't know why the Thermals didn't fully catch on in Toronto. They had great following the first 2 times I saw them, and then the third time they played at the Horseshoe, it was a very poor, I think, turnout. I'd say the place was 2/3 full, and it was a bit of a drag to not see the band get the credit I thought that they well deserved. But I love this band for a number of reasons. As a general theme, they like to take a lot of shots at organized religion. Not organized religion so much as Christianity and Catholicism. Take it in the nuts more than anything else. So you can tell that there's a lot going on thematically there for sure. But great straight up driving punk band. And I chose Here's Your Future because it's a crazy ass song. When not many songs have a dialogue with Noah and God in them.
Not enough songs do.
Not enough songs, and not enough songs about testing faith with flood, and this is just the beginning with the Thermals. I mean, I have so many songs of theirs that I absolutely love, but it fit for a number of reasons. It fit for the West Coast, certainly as a West Coast band, but I thought it fit Tyler's sort of the oddities and the wonderful weird people that he's come across. I thought that it fit from a number. It checked a number of boxes. Let's say that.
Yeah. Hey, your experience when a band like the Thermals shows up to the Horseshoe, it's 2/3 full.
Yeah.
Do you sense that they give 2/3, or those style of bands still they only have one gear?
This particular night, something was up. Like, I could tell that it was hard to say. The people that were there were highly receptive. They were fans for sure. And I ran into the band, and this is not the first time I saw them. This is not my discovery night, but 3 shows forward, I ran into Kathy out on Queen Street and was speaking to Weston, their drummer, as well, and I think that there was a promotions issue with this particular show, because I heard about it day of. And I think that the band didn't fail the city, the promoter failed the band. Maybe thought that it was a band that didn't necessarily need a lot of promo, because in the city of Toronto, generally, if band like Luna or one of those cool bands shows up, they always do well. If Stephen Malkmus shows up, he'll do well. But this was and it was the last time I saw them, and Yeah, it was it was tough. I think that they're a type of band who would give it all, whether there was 10 or 10,000 people. I
Yeah,
honestly believe that.
yeah,
But I think that there was something else afoot.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah. They hit the stage a little bit pissed off.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there wasn't um they were never demonstratively pissed, but you could
Hmm.
tell, I think, just because because I knew all, I knew so much of their work, and I'd seen them completely in a completely different mindset twice. And I
Yeah.
think the first time they were just so fucking joyous and so tight and so wound for a Toronto show. And by the third time, I think they were disappointed. I think they were just maybe sad. I don't think they were angry.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were sad that the people didn't come out, because,
Yeah.
this is a band who was literally crossing North America in a van. It wasn't a bus, a tour bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
They weren't in that, they were, yeah, and it's exhausting and
I can only imagine.
shitty. So that was, but I love this band. I mean, all of their vinyl is here. They reissue everything on vinyl, which is fantastic. And God, I love that band. I just love the Thermals.
And we hope Tyler does too. Hey, my next song is the song where I want Tyler to be driving along and go, "What the fuck just happened to my playlist? We were doing so well."
Because he hasn't done that already.
Well, I think we've there's a certain flow to it. I think we.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So
And
this is a knuckleball.
Moloko is a band, and Fun for Me. And I have zero idea the first time I heard the song, but I know the first time I heard the song, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, he wanted Uneven. And this song is don't. Like, it's just the start of it's silly. And the lyrics, I do not have a clue how she would not have to read the lyrics every time, because it's a story, but I don't know how she keeps it straight. Like, she goes on a Mr. Spock in one stanza, and then she's off to another thing later. And and the chorus is fee fi fo fum fun for me. And I was like, and she says it like 4 or 5 times, and then the verse and the chorus, and I'm like, what? Oh, they riff off fee fi fo fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. The Jack and the Beanstalk, they rip that off. It's awesome. Like, everything about that is goofy, and I just want him to be really, really into this mix, and like, oh, I can see where the next song's going. And then this comes on. It's like, what the fuck? So there you go, Tyler. You're awake now. Maybe it's time to check, see how much gas you have. I don't know.
Well, I think that what you've done successfully with that song is you've taken the wedge under the patio table, and now it's, it was okay for a while. You've got a few beer coasters, you've jammed them under the leg, and then everything's fine. Everything's fine.
No.
The drinks are on the table, they're level, and you come
No.
along and just kick that fucking wedge out, and it's just
Absolutely.
there's shit all over the place now.
Absolutely. If he had a coffee balance between his legs, it's he's got a burn right now for sure.
Nicely
And
done.
I love how bands get together too, because when she met, so her and then the guy are the two leading forces in this band, and they met at a club or at a show, and her opening line to me was, "How do you like me in my tight sweater?" That's her first line to him. That is the name of their first album. How do you like me in my tight sweater? Like, come on. If anyone says that to me, I'm like, we should continue this conversation.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's my last song. So what do you got left?
Well, just to rewind the tape, how many relationships begin with a value proposition right off the bat? That's
memorable
fantastic.
ones.
There you go.
Absolutely.
That's
You
great.
know, it's like on Instagram, you see those little clips for masterclass, and David Sedaris, he's always like his little clip on the Instagram clip is, you know, he says, I always look for interesting people, someone with the story. You have to have a story to write a story. And he says, I like to introduce myself and say hello to people by saying, when is the last time you touched a monkey? And he says one of the most memorable responses was from a woman who he asked, and she said, ooh, can you still smell it on me? Like, how could you not have a long conversation between these two people now?
And the funny thing is, when you fly into some nations, they will ask you at customs if you've had any contact with a primate.
Absolutely. And I don't think that's the ideal
You've been in
response.
close contact with a monkey lately. And I have to double clutch. I'm thinking, you know, some of the things that happened to me, I might not remember the monkey being in the room.
Oh my God.
And
Yeah,
I may have to, with an absolutely straight face, look at the officer and say, I'm not completely sure.
Let's just say it's not with me.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not with me now.
You might have to check my phone. Someone's been taking pictures. Just
the beauty of our lives, the mistakes we made without a fucking phone camera.
Oh, I have said on many occasions that, honest to God, the greatest advantage of my youth was the fact that nothing is recorded.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And
No
luckily I
bootleg-
grew up
no
poor where we
bootleg
didn't even
camera.
we didn't even take photos. You know,
No.
they cost $1 to take, so that wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's thank God, you know, for that. And I feel for people who make all of the same mistakes that we made, yet are exposed because it was recorded.
I feel so bad for them because, you know, when I hear of this stuff, it's like, oh my God, then this friend shared this video or picture. And I don't feel like I should go to that person and go, what the fuck were you thinking? I'm just like, I turn on myself and go, thank God that didn't happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a cautionary tale that I've discussed with my kids so many times, because, you know, it's the good thing is when you're my age, the people who were involved with me, their memories are shot. So not only is there no photographic evidence, video evidence, TikTok evidence, there isn't even a memory. It's been washed. The seas and sands of time have, thank God, have erased so much of that.
The strongest incriminating evidence you're going to get from your friends from your past is they might say, that may have happened. Like, that's as strong as.
That's right. That's right. And some things are buoyed by repetition. Thank God.
Yes.
And some of those things that are buoyed by repetition are kept cloaked. It's kept between a very small number of people for the right reasons. It's yeah.
And that speaks volumes to we can't let any new friends in.
That's right.
Keep the circle tight.
It's like the Shriners or
Absolutely.
or Scientologists. There's just full of secrets.
All right, what do you got?
Aliens with us, less aliens. Okay, my last one was I went with Raconteur's Steady as She Goes, a song that takes a lot of shit from people. Panned, but I'm a nut for the guitar sound of it.
Yeah,
I just think it's a grinder. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love the pace of the song, which immediately drew me to it as a driving song.
Mm-hmm.
But I just this particular incarnation of one of Jack White's projects just always took a lot of shit. But from the first time I heard that song, I just loved it. And
Absolutely.
I play that riff all the time just because it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I put this song in there because it makes me happy, and I hope that Tyler likes it too, or will like it. May or may not be familiar with it, but I always tried to relate my list to the driving experience. So it was our job.
Yeah.
We did a good job.
And thank God that Jack White let go of the upholstery business.
Well, yeah.
I love it because he was relatively successful being an upholsterer. He had his own business.
Yeah.
And he said I was pretty popular. I was making a good go of it, but I didn't have the best business practices, and it didn't help that I wrote out the receipts with a crayon, and I wrote poetry inside all of the furniture.
Yeah. 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 He was handy with the needle gun.
Yeah, absolutely. That guy's he's handed. That guy's talented. It's
yeah.
You know, we both referenced that documentary he was on, and it's just oozing with talent. It's so good. It's so nice to see someone that doesn't have to put on airs, that just says, I'm gonna knock your socks off. Just give me this guitar.
When my kid was small, he went to a YMCA basketball camp downtown Toronto and loved basketball, still does. And it was a great downtown camp at the YMCA. And the White Stripes were doing a thing where every town they played, they would just go and do a pop-up. So get this. So the White Stripes are playing, and they do a pop-up in the little mini gymnasium at the YMCA on Elizabeth Street off of Yonge Street. My kid is sitting there in the front row, and and Brendan would have been very familiar with their work. Because we had, when we went to do sports and stuff, we had a bunch of songs we'd play on the way to hockey and stuff. And Icky Thump was one of the songs. So Brendan's sitting there, not really knowing the gravitas of the situation with them setting up and playing. And the instructor said, when I picked him up, I found out all this after. He said, hey, that guy, the guy singing in the band stopped and pointed at your kid and said, hey, that guy knows the words.
Oh my God.
So I said to Brendan when I picked him up, I said, and he was telling me there the guy's telling me, I said, okay, so just wait. So the White Stripes played at your day camp? And he said, yeah, they're set up in this other room, and we all went in and they played a bunch of songs, and that was it. And I said, and you knew the song? He said, yeah, I know. I knew a bunch of them. And he pointed at my kid and said, hey, that kid knows the words. Is that crazy?
I'm sorry, but as you're telling the story, all I'm thinking of is for the next day and every day after for probably about 10 days, and you lost your will, but you showed up to day camp with all the kids. Yeah. I'm just enrolled.
The funny thing is they played, White Stripes played the Molson Amphitheater that night, and I didn't go to the show. I'd seen them many times before. For whatever reason, I may have been doing something else, but my kid got to see them at his basketball day camp at the YMCA of downtown Toronto.
He was like one mood away from Jack White saying, why don't you come up here and sing with me?
Oh. Yeah, and you know, fast forward so many years, he can rip a lot of those riffs. I hear a lot of them when he's home.
Yeah.
He lights it up downstairs, and I can hear the he's torturing the guitars down there, which is what you're supposed to do, which is I love it. I think Jack would be proud.
Right on. All right. Well, we went long.
It's 6 o'clock.
I know. All right. I gotta go. See you later.